Hi, so we're going to take another look at the Astra Militarum tier list after the September update. I actually think since the last one, quite a lot has changed. We'll get into my changing opinions as we go through. But we're going to start with all the characters. So first of all, we've got the Cadian Castellan. Opinion hasn't changed. Still an A tier pick. He's just a very cheap force multiplier, and the buffs he does give are good in certain detachments. Giving sustained hits and falling back and shoot is very good in recon and mechanized. Giving 2 orders is good all of the time. And for his actual stat line with a 5+ invuln and 4 wounds, having 55 points, a 55 point cost is good alongside his plasma pistol and his power fist, which both hit on 3s, which is good for guard. So yeah. The Commissar, he is just very cheap. He doesn't do anything apart from a utility piece for your army, just coming off a board edge for a secondary. If you have 30 points and you are lacking utility pieces, that's what he provides for you. Doesn't do much else. Ursula Creed. Had Ursula Creed previously at C tier, and I was thinking she would fall off into complete obscurity. That didn't actually happen after the last points update. Like, 85 points is still overcosted. The problem was at the time you were still comparing her to Lord Solar for your CP economy, and 150 for Lord Solar was also a lot, so people were still using Creed. Not in every list, but probably 1 in 4, 1 in 5, Creed was being seen. I think now Lord Solar's come down, she is Lord Solar. When you compare, do I want Creed for a free stratagem within 6 inches at 85 points and 3 orders exclusively for regiment, or do I want Lord Solar for pure CP generation, 3 orders on everything, and a much tougher stat line at 130 for 50 points more? No, 45 points more. Yeah, you're going to pick Lord Solar, aren't you? So yeah, Creed, I don't think she's majorly overcost, she's just overcost in the same tier as she was before. But Lord Solar being buffed simply makes her worse. Lord Marshal Dreyer, he is both bad datasheet writing and he's majorly overcosted. Do you know what, actually, I think he's just waiting for 11. Nah, we'll put him up here purely because his actual damage output's okay with his dev wounds on charges. Him and a squad of Death Riders can do good dev wound damage. However, he's a unit that has 3 orders but can't give them out because he can't be attached to anyone except Death Riders, which is the main problem with him. And 100 points for what he provides is extreme. He should be like 70 points, maybe even 65. His defensive stat line isn't that good. Sure, he revives on a 2+, but he only comes back with a max of 3 wounds, which is pitiful. So yeah, he's just not good. Big miss from Games Workshop. Lord Solar. I think so. Before I had him in S, before his points update, I think that was a bit too high. I think he was probably A tier. He's good overall, and having him in Hammer of the Emperor or Combined Arms was nice. I think now you're going to see him all the time when people are using like Bane Blades a lot. Having the 3 redeploys and 3 orders for 130 points is very, very good. He also contributes himself. He's got good melee, like 6 attacks on a 2+, AP2 damage 2, strength 6, and he has 2 strength 8, AP2 damage 2 pistol shots hitting on 2s. So he does contribute himself. He is 8 wounds with a 4+ invuln, so he's pretty hard to actually get kill. I think for how much he provides at his current points cost now, I think he is S+. I think he is very, very, very close to auto-include. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Especially with Rogaldon commanders going up, you could see people start to pivot to Lord Solar for their orders now. if you think our Lord Solar Order package still costs 225, I believe, oh no, it's 245, because it's 65 plus 65 for the Cadians, 65 for the command squad, so that's 130. Yeah, that's 130. Lord Solar's 130, so it's 260. Yeah, so 260 to give out 3 orders. Or you could have a Rogaldorn commander for 275 to do 290 if you give him Grand Strategist in combined. So it is much cheaper now to provide 3 orders, and you provide them at a further range. That's also not mentioning, you're trading the damage output of a Rogaldorn for his 3 redeploys and CP generation. I think he's getting close to auto include. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and put him at S+. Lord Solar's choice is himself. So yeah. Tech Priest, no change in opinion. He's an A-tier pick. You'll probably see him more now that Baneblades are around. He makes a tank hard to kill, and he heals them. That's all he really does, and he's lone operative, so you can mess around with him doing secondaries and stuff. 45 points is cheap. If it's a good investment for a Baneblade. As a Rogaldorn, I'm not totally convinced on Tech Priest for Rogaldorns. You could argue it's probably a bit better now, given they've gone up in points, but we'll see. Gaunt's Ghosts, I'm not too sure about the point decrease on these. They were fairly usable before. I think honestly now they're probably auto-include. You can make the argument that they can provide you a lot. They're an infiltrating unit, they're a lone op unit to do secondaries with, they have up and down for secondaries. Damage output is okay, with a 4 damage sniper, that's quite useful again in certain matchups. Looking at things like guard, mirror matchups, very good. Necron matchup, very good. Pretty much anything where there's 4 wound characters walking about, it's going to be good. I think Orcs have a lot of 4 wound characters with Pain Boys and stuff. Tau, I don't think Tau have 4 wound characters, but yeah. That will they're not going to be able to do all them things at once, right? And giving 2 orders out, they're not going to be able to do all these things at once. But if you are a skilled player, you can get them to do 2 of those things at once. Providing the orders and doing damage is very, you can do that. Infiltrating onto an objective to hold it and doing secondaries, you can do that, and giving the orders out. They are a unit that solves many issues, and it's basically a unit where they tried to see how many core abilities they could stick on one thing, to be honest. Infiltrate, lone op, stealth, fights first. It's a bit silly, to be honest, but at 100 points, I think they're hovering in this middle area, right? Because 100 points is still a very large point investment. And you could argue if you are a very good player, you don't lose this. Just taking a squad of 10 Cadians, you can do the same secondaries with, or 10 Aquilons, you can do the same with. But I think everyone who plays guard should be looking at them now. At 100 points, I've seen people saying they need to come down further to 90 points. I think that's ridiculous to even assume. But yeah, no, very good. Ogre and Bodyguard. I messed around with this a bit recently. I'm sort of not sold on it. Having an 105 point toughness 6 unit walking around in the midboard. Would you not rather just have 3 Bulgarin? I think the answer is yes. Or would you not rather spend a bit more, have 20 Krieg? Yes. I think before the Bulgarin buff, you could argue for them, but I think the Bulgarin buff they're starting to be outcompeted. So I'm going to say they're a C tier. There's a better option in the Bulgarin. Nork is exactly the same. He's just an Ogre and Bodyguard, but with slightly better melee statistics. And that has the same issue where you just take Bulgarin, to be honest. Yeah. I think I don't think he's D tier, but bottom of C for sure. The Immunostorum Priest is waiting for 11th edition, the melee unit for a fully ranged army, and you can't attach the Immunostorum Priest to any of our units that you could argue would want to be in melee, like Bulgrin or Ogryn, or yeah, that's that it really. But yeah. So, waiting for 11th edition, it shouldn't even really be in our codex, it's like an Imperial Agent model, so. Palmyra Psyker is a bad data sheet. It didn't need a nerf. I don't know what they were thinking with the codex, giving it 2 less attacks. It was barely played anyway. It's a 3 rune model with 2 hazardous tests, so in one turn you have 2 1 in 6 chances that you're going to kill yourself, so really it's a 33% chance that you're going to kill yourself if you give the 4+ invuln against ranged attacks and attack with your dev wound weapon, which is the only good one. So yeah, either give her an extra wound to take it up to 4, so you're not going to one-shot yourself, or make the 4+ invuln. There's 2 ways to fix the Palmyra Psyker. First of all, you need to give her 4 wounds. But then to actually fix it, I think get rid of. You can keep the feel no pain against psychic attacks, it's whatever. I would rather you change it to a feel no pain all the time, just 5+ feel no pain all the time, or change it to a 5+ invulnerable save against everything. So in melee and in ranged. That would make her so much better. It would make her actually see play. Even if you don't want to give her the attacks back, that's fine. If you change that, I don't think she needs the extra 2 attacks, but yeah. Sly Marbo. So I don't think he's D tier, but would you have him in B or would you have him in C? That's kind of the question. So he's Infiltrate Lone Op. We already have that with the Gaunt's Ghosts. Okay, fair enough. The Gaunt's Ghosts are probably not just going to sit on an objective, and they're much more of a points investment. But we have Rattlings at 60, who do chip in with some chip damage, and only 5 points more. So, I mean, they don't have Lone Op. I understand that, but I feel like having an Infiltrate Lone Op unit is helpful in certain metas, but I don't think we're in one of those right now. So I think he's probably the very top of C. If I have 55 points, I can have him or I can have a Scout Sentinel. That's kind of the way I look at it. And most of the time, I'm not going to pick Sly Marbo. I'm already going to have plenty of... A guard don't struggle with the primary game, and he fixes a primary issue for you, which is why he's not needed, really. So that's all the characters, apart from the command squads. Going on to the battle line now. We'll start with the Krieg. I'm going to put the Krieg the top of A tier. The 15-point nerf did hurt on them in the last update. I sort of thought they were going to be a lot worse, but you see a lot of people still take them. I still like them at a 20-man, 145 to be honest. And if you're going to be running 10-mans, like spamming 10-mans, they're not the best one to spam, but they're probably better than Cadians to spam 10-mans off. It's just the D3+1 region without having to invest in a command squad is what really sets them apart. Also, the fact that they do more damage than the other squads. It's like, is the region and the extra damage worth 25 points more than a squad of 10, 20 Cadians? The answer is probably not, but you're not far off that. Like, I would pay 20 points for it, maybe 15. The 25 is a bit harsh, but for what they do, dealing damage, sitting on your expansion, resurrecting on objectives with D3+1 flips objectives all the time for you. So I think in Recon they have a place, for sure. Mechanized, I don't think so. Siege, they do. Bridgehead, no. Combined, they definitely do. A 20-man in Combined is a very, very, very good choice a lot of the time. Hammer, no. But yeah, I think A tier is a good spot for them. Katachans are going to go in S+. Probably like this. I had Katachans in S previously. I've sort of reconsidered that. I think we'll do Cadians at the same time, because I'm going to downgrade them to S. My logic in swapping these two is the Cadian's ability. So when you compare the two, Cadians have more special weapons, that's okay, but they do less damage than Krieg. Okay, so they fit in the middle tier of that. Points cost, they cost the same as Catachans. Okay. Abilities, they have sticky objectives. Okay, that's really good. Fantastic ability. They're Cadians, which means most of the characters in the codex are able to attach to them. Therefore, they hold a place in allowing order economy throughout your army. Okay. However, when you're thinking about giving out orders, you normally only have one squad who's going to do that for you. Like one character who's going to do that for you. Lord Solar, Ursula Creed, maybe a Castellan, whatever. So you only need one squad. Second of all, do you need more than one squad to run around and sticky objectives for you? The only time I think you'd see two if you have a Lord Solar blob at the back and you want another 10 to try and rush onto an objective and sticky it. But having more than one squad of Cadians it's like diminishing returns. So then you look at Catachans. They do less damage than Cadians. Okay. They cost the same. Okay. Do they sticky? No. Do they have Scout 6? Yes, they do. So now you're looking at an entirely different role where Catachans can extremely easily scout onto a mid-board or a mid-board objective on turn 1 in a lot of deployments. They can get on your expansion in every deployment pretty much in turn 1. We'll talk about it more when we talk about Chimeras, but they're insanely good at just dumping their OC onto objectives better than any other unit and flipping them for you. And I think as an army that excels at primary, a lot of that reputation is purely from this one unit, and I think they're very, very undervalued. So I think I'm going to put them at the top of S+. Command squads. So where's the Krieg one? So we'll do the Cadian one first. It's going to be S. It's just like the go-to command squad, really, because of what it can be attached with. As a data sheet within itself, you're forced to take the master box, but that's not an issue because of what I've already mentioned, what attaches with them. You get a couple of special weapons, whatever, like the ability to provide cover on objectives is very, very strong it's a very just strong ability all the time. You are going to be in cover most of the time on objectives, but on mid-board objectives, you probably are not. On your deployment objective, you might not be. And obviously, if you're getting flanked from deep strike and stuff, you probably aren't going to be either. So giving that ability is good all of the time. It's especially strong in recon element, and it's just nice in general. So yeah, it's just a commonly used data sheet that in itself is okay. So it's sort of good overall, but it's a list staple. You're going to see them all the time. Also, there's a current meta going around where you have one of these with Grand Strategist to give 2 orders out to like Krieg squads, for example. To get cheap orders out in your combined lists or in your hammer lists or in your mech lists. So yeah. The Catachan command squad, I think, is sort of a mid-tier pick. With these, you're not locked to taking the Master Box or the Med Pack, which means you can have 4 special weapons plus the plasma pistol I think the Sergeant gets, which means you just have a squad that is very punchy, more punchy than the other command squads, which is very nice. Giving Catachan's Assault is like, it's okay. I'm not going to complain about it, especially because a lot of times you are advancing your Catachans, but the damage output of Catachans is low anyway. So I can see you would mess around with this. I don't think it's meta dependent. I don't think there's better options because like it sort of fills its own weird niche role, and it's not overcosted. So yeah, it's just sort of a mid-tier pick really. Krieg command squad is going to go bottom of C. It's probably better than these, but the problem with it is Krieg don't need a command squad unless the command squad provides something they want, which is extra damage or extra durability. This just provides cancelling battle shock, which is terrible. Furthermore, because the Krieg have resurrection built into themselves, they decided to give the medpack guy a 6+ feel no pain against mortal wounds, which is never going to come up. And even if it did come up, 6+ against something niche, like what were they thinking? Just at least make it a 4+ or something, like everything else gets. The only time this is good is if you're playing Siege and you give it the legacy sidearm enhancement, because I think this squad gets like 3 plasma pistols or something. So you're getting 9 plasma pistol shots out of this command squad. That's the only time I can think that you can make an argument for them, really. The Servo Scribe's double order ability once per game, I'd rather just have 2 orders all the time. It's so niche, it's never going to come up. So yeah. The Krieg Heavy Weapons team, I'm going to put in A. I'm going to put it at the very top of A because of how insane this unit is in Mechanized Assault. So, firing deck 2 with 2 flamers on a Chimera that has double flamer on it is the most insane Overwatch piece for the points cost ever. It's so scary for your opponent. Furthermore, it's a damage 2. I mean, obviously there's other weapons. There's the Krieg Heavy Stubber and there's the Krieg Las Cannon. This unit is just a Krieg Heavy Flamer. That's the only weapon you take on them. It's a Flamer that has 18-inch range. Okay, that's really good. Then you think it's Strength 5. That's pretty good. AP 1, ignoring cover, pretty good. Damage 2, what the hell? Why is this just damage 2 Flamer? Like, for 75 points, you're getting 3d6 Flamer shots. In a Mechanized Assault, them Flamer shots are +1 to wound. Like, for what this can kill at the points cost in Mechanized is ridiculous. Then to top it off, you have another guy in there that has the grenades keyword, just like a random guy with a las pistol, so they can chuck grenades without sacrificing the flamer attack, and they get to shoot on death on a 3+. So realistically, in a one battle round, you shoot them 3 times. You shoot in your turn, you overwatch, and then you shoot when you get shot and killed. Obviously, it's not going to work all the time if you get charged in melee, but as an ability, it's insane. So, yeah. Very strong. The Kachan weapons team, I'm going to put in C tier. I think I gave them B tier last time. I'm not sure if they qualify for that anymore. I think maybe like this. This is probably the right order. So, re-rolling hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 against monster and vehicles on the surface sounds like a good ability. The problem is, if you equip them with las cannons, there's many problems. For example, they have terrible movement. I think it's 4 inches of movement. So your opponent can just avoid them very easily. Second of all, when you actually do decide to shoot them with a las cannon, you will move them into position, so you're losing your heavy. So you're hitting, even if you're ordered, you're hitting on a 4+, because they have a 5+ base ballistic skill, which is horrific. So, say you get lucky, you get 2 hits. Then say you get lucky and they both wound. 2 las cannon shots, like maybe they save 1. So it's realistically, at best, you're probably going to get 1 las cannon shot through for 65 points. What's the point? I think the layout in which they excel, and they did excel for a long time in the Bridgehead meta, was the mortar setup, where you just have something that can effectively chip 1 or 2 wounds off a vehicle from relative safety and indirect firing. Obviously it's AP 0, so your opponent has to get very unlucky. I think that role has been overtaken now by the Krieg, the artillery team, because it does it much more effectively. So you kind of argue, like, where is their place? I think if they came back down to their original points cost, because they got nerfed because of Bridgehead, and then Bridgehead died. So if they came back down, I could see them being used again. But I wouldn't even be convinced to use them. I think that would just put them back up to sort of B tier. But yeah. The Cadian weapons team is going to go in the very bottom of C tier. It's a worse option of something that's in the C tier. So I'm being generous not putting in D, I think, but nah, do you know what? It needs to be D tier really. The rule has been replaced for overwatching on like a 4 or 5 plus or something. I can't even remember. But like, why are you going to be overwatching with this unit? Like, when is that going to happen? You're probably not even going to be able to. 'Cause you're going to, like, yeah, I don't know. Also, why does it cost the same as the Kachan version? Why, when they nerfed them, did they nerf them both? That doesn't make sense to me. Tempestus Command Squad. Like, it's just overcosted, really, isn't it? Same with Scions. Like, we all know what these things do. They are extremely damage efficient. Like, they do damage they just do crazy damage to everything. Especially in combined arms, they do crazy damage, and Bridghead obviously, and in mechanized, if they come out of like a Torx Prime or something. The problem is, they cost so much now, they've been subjected to so many nerfs, where this Dataslate, me and pretty much every other guard player was hoping that they would finally fix them. Even just a small points drop, like a 5-point drop on the Scions, I would be at least as a start. Everyone owns so many of these things because of the Bridgehead meta and because of how popular they are among guard players, but no one has been able to use them at all because of how shit they are. Like, as a training piece, which is basically what they are you going to be able to kill a 225 point unit with these? Because I'm pretty sure that's what a 15 man costs. Probably the answer is no, and that's everyone knows the threat of them, so they get overwatched anyway. But yeah, I think they have some play in a Stormlord, and obviously that got cheaper, but it's not. They're not the best, really, are they? Tempestus Aquilons. These things have been subjected to overwhelming nerfs as well. However, at least Games Workshop gave them a bit of retribution in the last time out. I'm going to put them in the B tier. I'm tempted to go A, purely because they're a great target for the reinforcement strat in combined arms. But, I mean, even if you do that, they're not going to come back and, like, absolutely go mental, because they don't really do very much damage. They're just going to come back and, like, get you a couple extra points on secondary, maybe, or help you fill in a challenger card. So I'm going to go B tier, probably the top of B tier, to be honest. I do like them. I think they're a fantastic model, and obviously they're good in combined arms and they're good in Bridgehead. They're not good in the other detachments, really. But if I was going to have a combined arms list, I would probably put one unit of these in. And obviously Bridgehead would probably put 1 or 2. So Kazakin. I'm going to say the Kazakin are these... Now they're the best unit in the Codex. These not getting a 5-point or 10-point nerf was a blessing in disguise in this data slate. They're just the most efficient unit at trading that we have. Detachment, like independent of detachment. I think in every detachment you start a list with 1 unit of Kazakin. If you're playing Hammer combined mech, you're going to put 2 in, maybe even 3. They're just, for 110 points, you have 2 plasmas, 2 meltas, a plasma pistol, a 3 damage AP2 sniper rifle, a meltamine, D3 meltamine that you can use in any phase, or I think it's 2 D3 against vehicles. Yeah. And, like, they can also give themselves an order, which is very powerful. And because of the wording of the rule, they can receive 2 orders. Like, that, if you are good with Kazakin, you are good at guard, I think. Because using the correct methods to allow them to do their job is what will win you a game. Because they can kill stuff double their points cost so easily. If you look at like units of Space Marines, I think these things can kill like I would be confident they could kill 3 Centurions. I would be confident they can kill 10 Hellblasters. With grenading, obviously. I would be confident. I would even be confident that potentially they could maybe kill like a land speeder or something like that. They're just really powerful. I think they're definitely going to get a nerf next Dataslate for sure. Anyway, we'll carry on. Krieg Engineers. The 10-point nerf helps purely because with every unit you sort of hit the wall where no matter what they are, they just become so cheap. And I think we're sort of reaching that now where we're at the cheap level. I'm like, well, if I'm taking these, I'm still not confident they're going to do a shit ton of damage. Like, okay, they get to grenade for free. You can look at that as you saving yourself a CP. They're cheaper than the battle line units now. Obviously, you only get 5 models. I think the way they would fix them is just making the remote mine go off on a 2+ instead of a 3. Because the 3+ just makes it where it's like not viable enough. Like if it doesn't go off, suddenly your unit's basically wasted. And it's not going to make up its point value. Because as soon as you expose this unit, it gets picked up because your opponent knows you're just going to keep spamming grenades if they don't pick it up, and it's easy to kill. I think its role now at 60 points is just like a little annoying scouting unit that's going to like maybe make move blocking, like might miss move block you, or just chuck a grenade at something and then die. But it's not going to kill anything. It's worth 60 points doing 3 mortals, is it? So, yeah. I think they're in the B tier now. They're just a mid, or you can put it in if you have 60 points. But at 60 points, I'd probably rather have Rattlings. So, yeah. Ogrin. Speaking of a unit that's 60 points, they are of here for sure. Like, once again, you've hit the 60-point wall where they're just cheap. Okay. We'll talk about them in Mechanized in a bit, but in every detachment apart from Mechanized, they're just a cheap unit of 3 bodies, where they're just annoying. And themselves, for 60 points, their damage isn't horrific. Like, just, yeah. Like, out of everything, what you would want to do with them, I think you just push them forward and shoot something and die. But, like, that as a whole would probably just make them a B tier pick. What makes them an A tier pick is Mechanized Assault, because that stratagem supports Ogrin like nothing else, giving them +1 to wound. So at their stat line, they have 3 shots each with rapid fire 3, and their ranged weapon is 18 inches. So you need to get them within 9. Putting them in transports is is an efficient way of allowing that to occur. Okay, so an ode to Mechanized Assault there. Their strength 6, AP2, damage 2. So strength 6 with +1 to wound is a very efficient way to wound stuff on 2s or 3s, and that being AP2 damage 2, another ode to Mechanized Assault. Then there's a stratagem that gives them 4 rerolls to hit and to wound. That remedies the 4+ ballistic skills straight away, and with how efficient they are at wounding, it pretty much everything you hit, you're probably going to wound if you're going into light infantry with these, like anything toughness 4 or 5. So this 60-point unit suddenly with 1 CP becomes an absolute machine where it can easily wipe 200 points of stuff. In Mechanized Assault, Ogrin punch up in their points cost more than anything else in Astra Militarum. It's insane. The only problem is people know this, and they will overwatch them nearly every time because it's 3 models. And even though they are toughness 6, they only have 3 wounds, and they have a 5-up save. So if your opponent gets any meaningful overwatch through with a 3 damage weapon, they're probably dead. But you can play around that. So Death Riders. I think Death Riders are probably in the B tier now, actually. Probably the very bottom of B tier. I think at the points cost, now the same as Rough Riders, you're not taking them to do more damage, but They are extremely annoying purely because their footprint is so big, and allowing a massive footprint or having, so like we're at the cheap wall again, do you know what I mean? But having a very cheap large footprint unit with a reactive move allows for some clutch move blocks in certain situations if you're a good player. So for that reason, they are a mid pick, right? They don't do anything, but having that reactive move block in a lot of matchups is important, especially into like elite matchups, like if you're playing knights, custodes, death guard. Having this reactive move 60-point unit that your opponent basically can't go around because of how massive their footprint is very good. On the other end of the spectrum, Rough Riders. I'm going to downgrade the Rough Riders. I had them in S. I think I'm putting them top of A now. I think the reason is, while the footprint being large of the Death Riders is a good thing, having a large footprint for Rough Riders is not. Because Rough Riders, you want them to be charging into melee. Because when you look in isolation at their weapon profile, they have a 3+ base weapon skill with 1 attack, strength 9, AP 4, D6 damage with lance. So you're going to be wounding most vehicles on 4s or 3s, depending, with high AP. They respond well to orders, making them hit on 2s, giving them extra movement. But they're like a glass cannon. But once again, they're at the cheap point where they're 60, 120, which is just ridiculously cheap for the damage they do. Bit swingy. However, the problem is the footprint. So if you take a 5-man, they have a lower footprint, right? The problem is you need the 10-man to reduce the swing of the attacks, because suddenly you have the 5-man and you might fail a couple wounds and like that you shouldn't have otherwise failed, and you can't kill what you want to kill with them. So I think you need the 10-man, but with the 10-man, the footprint is so big that you probably aren't going to get all 10 into melee, or if you fail the charge roll with the 10-man, which is possible with the pivots you have to do, it becomes a bit dodgy. So yeah, but I still think they're good. It's just that pivoting large base on a lot of deployments and terrain layouts can cause you a lot of problems. So yeah, Rattlings. I'm gonna put Rattlings like probably about here. They're just a very cheap infiltrating unit that can contribute some chip because of their move, shoot, move. The only detachment I think they provide anything apart from just something that you infiltrate and then dies is mech, because in mech you can take a 10-man. That means you're giving them all lethal hits, and you have a tank stopper rifle, and the move, shoot, move allows you to disembark from a transport, shoot, and then embark again. So you're just constantly refreshing that +1. I think in certain matchups with their snipers that's actually quite powerful. Especially for their cheap points cost, but I would rather just have 3 Ogryn, so yeah. But you know, you can mess around with them. Bulgarin, Bulgarin are probably S tier. I think they sort of are competing with Deathcore of Krieg in just having something that's very sturdy to sit on your expansion. You can play aggressively with them, but they do have a movement problem, especially that they can't be ordered. I personally am a fan of the Krieg, purely because I know that their primary game is much better, even if their damage in melee is not. However, I recognise that Bulgarin are extremely survivable, being -1 damage with a 4+ invuln and a 6+ feel no pain. I understand that, and they are becoming like the archetype of guard, like for the World Championships, was just like 2 Dawns, 12 Bulgarin, in most lists, and I get why that is. So yeah. And their melee actually does a lot of damage. So we're getting into all the indirect. I think all the indirect is outcompeted by 1, but we'll get into that. Field Ordnance Battery. This thing has fell from grace, really, hasn't it? It got a 10-point nerf a while ago, and when that happened, everyone was sort of like, oh yeah, like, we'll still use it, and then everyone just sort of slowly stopped. Like, I think, obviously, the Hellhounds, pre-Codex this thing was good. Post-Codex, Hellhounds went up in points, so stripping cover wasn't suddenly as readily available as before, because people weren't spamming Hellhounds. You lost that enhancement that let you, like, help indirect firing in combined pre-Codex, so that got removed. So now you're sort of left with this unit that... Oh, and they sort of made a revival in Bridgehead when that came out, because obviously they were re-rolling hit rolls of 1 in Bridgehead, and you had an enhancement to strip cover and a stratagem to strip cover in Bridgehead. So they sort of were around for that period. Post-Codex, they've just died off, really. They're 110 points, so they're the same cost as a Wyvern, more expensive than an artillery team. Like, but the damage output they have is not good. Their rule's good. Their rule is better than a lot of the others, with sustained hits when they're ordered, but that doesn't really come up very much, and your opponent just makes all the saves against this thing. I think it's probably just the top of C being, like, it's probably just meta dependent. The Krieg artillery team is just the best indirect, really. I'm going to put it at the top of B. It does multiple jobs. Like, okay, looking at all the weapons, you take one. It's the siege cannon, the heavy mortar. If people say the heavy mortar is good, they're just like laughing. Like, I don't know what they're on about. It's strength 8 with AP1, so it's AP nothing. Like if you're shooting anything, you just like bring a basilisk if you're trying to kill toughness 4. But I think being strength 12, AP2, damage 3. Anytime I see like any 3 wounds toughness 6 model, which are becoming like, they're quite common in the current meta, like heavy intercessors, because any custody, I'm trying to think of others. There's loads of others, but yeah, like inner circle companions. When I see them, and I have an artillery team, I know that artillery team over the course of a 5-round game is going to kill a lot of them, and that is why you bring it. The other reason you bring it is it's efficient at just like killing vehicles below toughness 12. So like dreadnoughts, anything toughness 10, that are on low wounds, like because it does 3 damage. Like say your big tanks put a dreadnought on 2 wounds, like, and you have an artillery cannon, you bring it to finish it off, and I've done that a few times, which has been very clutch. Like especially if you're staring at something like a gladiator lancer, that's about to demolish your Rogol Dawn in the next turn if you don't pick it off. So yeah. The only thing is the rule is bad. But for the points cost, I think it's like toughness 7 with 10 wounds or something, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't know what they were like thinking with that. It's insane. Basilisk. I think the Basilisk is... I put it in D last time. I'm gonna move it up to the very bottom of C, because every time I use it, it never performs well. I don't know if that's just for me, because when you look at its stat line, you know it should be killing some toughness 4 infantry, but whenever I use it and shoot toughness 4 infantry, it's killing like 1 model. Like, I think in a meta where it's extremely melee dominated, and you're like pre-Codex Death Guard, where they didn't just 6-inch deep strike and charge everything, this thing was really good at dealing with them. I think because advance and charge has become extremely popular, it feels like every time they bring out a new detachment, it's got advance and charge in it if you're a melee army. The fact that it lost -2 to advances is very bad. I think they need to bring that back. If they brought that back, I could see it being used more. I get Games Workshop don't want an indirect meta, but when you're looking at an army that has like 5 units of indirect, not counting the mortars from the heavy weapons team, which gives you 8 units, like, just allow that army some good indirect fire. What is the problem? I don't understand. But yeah, I'll give the Basilisk the benefit of the doubt. This next one, though, is not getting the benefit of the doubt, the Manticore. So the Manticore has the same profile as a siege cannon. Like, that's what it does. It's the same damage output as a siege cannon, but it's anti-infantry 2+. But most of the time with a siege cannon, you're wounding infantry on a 2 anyway, because it's strength 12. So, like, what? But you're paying, I think the Manticore's 160, 165. So you're paying, you could nearly get 2 siege cannons for the price of this thing. I don't know what they were thinking. And then the ability is just like a suppression thing, or battle shock thing, something like that. Like, pointless ability as well. This thing used to be a good unit, and it's just become terrible. However, it's not the worst. The Wyvern is the worst. It arguably is the worst thing in the entire codex. So it's 110 points, and it has the same profile as 2 mortars. So for 65 points, you can get 3 mortars from a weapons team. For this 110 points, you get 2 mortars, and they're twin linked. Like, what? Why? What are you paying for? I don't get it. So on to transports. Chimera. Oh, this is a hard one, you know. I think I'm going to give the Chimera put it very top of S tier. I'm not going to give it S+, because I think when you compare where the Chimera was in the past, being 75 points, it was S+ then. But I think the 85 points is probably the top of S. It probably is where it needs to be. But it feels wrong putting an S+ at 85. Like, it's just an efficient unit where you have firing deck 2, you have a heavy stubber like a lasgun array for some like anti-horde damage, then you have the choice of 2 heavy bolters or 2 heavy flamers for some like more anti-infantry damage. Like, it's an 85 point and a 100 killer missile. It's an 85 point unit that has a lot of guns on it. The rule is a bit terrible. Just giving orders if you're embarked within it is a bit meh. Never used it. But it's tough for its points cost. It's toughness 9 with 3 up to save 11 wounds. You can't really ask for much more at 85 points, especially with all the guns it has. It's just like a focal point of the guard. You're going to see it in almost every detachment. It's really common to put 10 Catachans and just OC dump something with this, because it responds well with the Scout 6 and just disembarking stuff. Works well with Kazakin for the same reason. Works well with Krieg Heavy Flamers with the firing deck. Works well with Ogrin for the same reason. It just works well with every unit, really. So yeah. So then you've got, I'll do the Taurox, normal Taurox first. I think this is also S tier, right? But I think maybe like this. Yeah. So I think it was better than the Chimera. The 10-point nerf has made it much more contested, because for 10 points more, you're getting infinitely more. You get like the Taurox only has an auto cannon that's like 2 shots or 4 shots or something, and a storm bolter. The Chimera has much more. So you're paying for the rule. The rule is you can advance and drop. In Hammer of the Emperor, that isn't like an auto-include 3 Taurox detachment because of how strong that ability is. It's not as tough as the Chimera also. I think it's toughness 8, 3 up 10 wounds, so you're losing 1 toughness and 1 wound, which does matter. Especially in stuff like multi-melters. So, I think the Chimera Edge is the top spot for me at the moment. In Hammer of the Emperor, you would use the Tauroxes. If you need 10 points, like I can see you picking Tauroxes, like downgrading Chimeras to Tauroxes to save 10 points is like a pretty common thing to do. It probably will be happening a lot after the 10-point nerfs that Rogel Dawn's got. So, yeah. But in Hammer and Mechanized, it's still a very good unit. The Taurox Prime is meta dependent. It's actually a good data sheet within itself. I think it's just purely meta dependent because the Scions are overcosted. When Scions come down, it will be better. But within itself has a good rule, which allows anything to disembark, full rerolls to hit, and it has a good gun on itself with like a Dev Wound twin linked weapon, which is gonna pop a few Dev Wounds off. The Death Strike is waiting for 11th. It's waiting for 11th really, isn't it? Look how big this weapon is, but it does 1 damage. I think that's all that needs to be said about it. The Hydra, my weird opinions on the Hydra are going to continue. Top of B tier. It's 95 points for a Chimera chassis. So you would say, okay, why not bring the Chimera? It's the Anti-Fly 2+. I feel like finding a model that flies is like 50% chance, it feels like. It's so common. It's like, just, yeah. And having that ability plus having this just sit on an objective for you in a lot of detachments is really good. People almost look at it and be like, this does nothing as well, which is very nice. I think it's a good choice. Giving it lethals as well, in combined against like things like Doomsday Arcs and that, is very nice. So now on to the big vehicles. So Hellhound. I'm gonna put the Hellhound in. I think I gave it like S+ last time. I'm gonna put it in S tier, probably here. I think I was being a bit generous, to be honest with you. Like, it's very expensive for what it is. So it's toughness 10, 11 wounds with a 2-up save. So comparing that to a Chimera, it's got the same wounds, but you get 1 extra save, 1 extra toughness. Okay. What else do you get? You get stripping cover ability. Okay, very good. You get an Inferno Cannon and a Heavy Flamer. Okay, fine. Yeah, good. Like AP2 Flamer, not bad. It's a good tank shot threat, it's toughness 10. It's a good frontline unit, it's tough. And then you can put multi-melters on it as well instead of the Flamer. And obviously it's got a Hunter Killer. My problem with it is, it feels like with the constant nerfs, people are having to downgrade stuff and like points feel more at a premium with just the stuff you need to take. It feels like when I'm trying to fit Hellhounds in my list, like I just can't. Which feels weird to say. But like, what detachment do you take these things in? Like, objectively, it's a good unit, okay? It's a very strong data sheet objectively. But like, am I going to fit them in Recon? No. Am I going to fit them in Mechanized? Probably not. Like, very rarely I'm going to put them in Mechanized, okay? Hammer of the Emperor. I could see them being in that. Combined Arms. Potentially, but they don't fit the detachment rule, and like, it feels like out of every army list, Combined Arms is the hardest to fit stuff in. Siege, no. So like, where you're fitting them in Hammer, you may be fitting them in Mech and Combined, but like, they're not super prevalent, which shows that they're not insane. And you almost like don't really see them in competitive lists. It's weird. I think they need to come down to 120, maybe 115, and you would see them popping up. So now you're getting onto the Lehman Russes. Lehman Russ Commander is going to go in D tier. I don't know why some people are like licking this unit's arse out. It's like shit. It's so bad. It's point for point, it performs the worst out of everything in the Codex, I think, in terms of what it can kill and be killed by. It just, you're gonna, even after that, like, pre-Rogel Dawn nerf, you could pay 30 points more to get a Rogel Dawn commander. Now you're paying 40, and I have no problem just paying an extra 40 points to upgrade this to a Rogel Dawn commander. You're gonna do way more damage with it, and you're not going to be insta-killed by a las cannon. So, yeah. Needs a 20-point drop before you can even consider bringing one. Battle tank, I'd say it's like okay all of the time, but I'm going to put it here. I think it's okay all of the time, but for combined arms, it's almost auto-include with all the re-rolling lethal hits you can get with this thing. Lethal hits on multi-melters go really hard anyway, and giving that the ability to re-roll, especially with and the battle cannon being strength 10, into a lot of targets makes lethals like a strong choice. So I think for that reason it's going to go in A tier. Also giving it extra AP with Fields of Fire is good. So yeah, A tier for sure, just of how good it is in combined. Otherwise, probably it's just over. It's like mid-tier tank for how expensive it is. It's a bit overcosted. Demolisher. I think the Demolisher suffers that there's just better options than it. Probably deserves to go about here, I think. So it's still like priced as if the Demolisher cannon was D6 plus 3, which I don't understand. Now that it's D6 plus 1, like you have less damage output than the battle tank, you have less damage output than the Exterminator, and you have less damage output than the Executioner. So why is it the most expensive Leman Russ when the ability is a bit naff anyway? It just needs a rule rewrite, or they need to change the Demolisher cannon to back what it was, because I'm pretty sure the Demolisher cannons on Vindicators are D6 plus 3. I'm pretty sure. So why is it only guards that are D6 plus 1? The Eradicator. This thing needs some serious help. I'm going to put it about here. Like, the thing with it is, I've sort of like unit crunched the maths on this thing. Into a lot of targets, it is more survivable, but it costs 170. So I think I would just rather pay for a cheaper Russ than have one that's slightly more survivable at 170. Because damage output is atrocious. I think if you shoot the main cannon at toughness 4 infantry, you kill like 2 or 3 models. Like, it has a high shot count because it's D3 plus 6. That's what is good about it. The problem is it's strength 7, AP 1, damage 2. So you're wounding most things on a 3, which is the issue. I think if they made it strength 8, I could see it being used more, because then you're sort of guaranteeing that you're going to be wounding toughness 4 and 2s, which I think is a good break point for it. The AP 1 ignoring cover is good, obviously, and damage 2 is like okay. I think it just needs a strength up. It either needs to come down 10 points and be in that 160 mark, which no other Russ is, to be fair, or it needs to be a strength 8. The Executioner Plasma Russ. I feel like everyone sort of says this thing's insane. I am hesitant to give it A tier before I try it myself. Now we'll give it A tier. I just need to rework this A tier a bit. It's sort of all over the place. I'll put that there. Put that there. Yeah. It being AP3 damage 3 is the biggest thing for it, really. And strength 8 it's okay. In combined arms, obviously, giving the strength 8 lethals is good. It's sort of just like a tank you shoot at, like anti-elite infantry. It doesn't really punch up very well into vehicles, which is the main drawback with it. Obviously, it's hazardous, and yeah, like, the rule's also irrelevant. When are you going to be shooting something with this that's below half? Probably never, so. But everyone's saying now the battle tank got nerfed. This is like was its main competitor, and the 15-point difference now is making it more attractive. But I'm yet to try that out. The Exterminator for me is B. I think I had it towards the top of B last time. I think it sort of fits in this area now, purely because the Rogel Dawn has been nerfed, so as a knock-on effect of that, the Exterminator package is more expensive, and that makes it harder to fit a 180 point tank that purely buffs AP. Damage output's meh, so I think these are sort of going to fade away. It's just, like, I would still rather have it than Demolisher and an Eradicator, but yeah, it needs to come back down, I think. Punisher, the Punisher is waiting for 11th. Even when we were in the full infantry meta, this thing was still bad, and that is all I need to say about it, really. Yeah, it's just terrible. The Vanquisher, I think the Vanquisher's S+. Yeah, it's got to go here, really. Now that the other tank chassis are more expensive, right? You can have a Rogel Dawn, or you can have a Vanquisher and 105 points. So you can have a Vanquisher and a squad of Kazakin, basically. And you're still getting a Lehman Ross hull with all the sponsons. And the gun is still, like, it's not bad. Like, it's better than a Punisher Gatling cannon. I would still say it's a better cannon than the Eradicator cannon. I wouldn't say it's better than any of the others, but being dedicated anti-tank, like, it's perfectly fine for that role. Obviously, it hurts when you miss the shot and you roll a 2 or a 1. Like okay, fine. But if you get the hit through, you're more than likely to wound the target, because you're probably wounding on 2s or 3s re-rolling. So that's almost guaranteed. And then it's AP 4. So if your enemy's in cover, they're saving on a 5. If they're not, a 6. That's good as well. So I think it's sort of an underrated hull, purely because you're getting the toughness 11, 13 wounds for 145 points. That's like 11, 12 points per wound at toughness 11. Like, you're not going to find much, like, something that's as powerful as that, for that, like, as efficient points wise for per wound per toughness as a Vanquisher. I think it's going to be even more popular now the Daunts have gone up, and the triple heavy flamer build is still popping around where you don't even order them. Yeah, nah, this thing is just, your opponent never gets a good points trade when they shoot this, which is what you want. Rogel Dawns. So Rogel Dawn Commander and Rogel Dawn will do it at the same time. I think they're both still S+. I'd probably say they're here. They're not the best thing in the codex anymore. Like, we can agree to that. But 10 points comes out to like 5% point increase for their points cost, which is, like, it doesn't help, but it's manageable. I think for how expensive the Commander is, it does look a bit worse than how expensive the Dawn is. Like, 250 for a Rogel Dawn, like, it's probably okay. 275 for Commander, you're starting to be like, oh, this is getting a bit pricey now. Because the rule for the Commander in itself isn't the greatest. Like, rolling a hit and wound, like, a lot of the times, like 50% of the time, it means you're going to get like an extra 3 damage if you're doing that for your Oppressor Cannon. But obviously they have to fail the save, which is probably going to be like a 50% chance most of the time, unless you're in combined. So re-rolling the damage on the multi-meller is what makes the ability good, really. I think making damage 0 on a Rogel Dawn is, I think it's a better ability. When you don't, as long as you're not thinking about the enhancements in Hammer of the Emperor that you put on the Rogel Dawn Commander. If you take that out of the equation, I think making damage 0 for like a las cannon shot, or, you know, gladiator lancer shot, or Pectan land fortress like magma rail shot, or whatever it's called, or Tau hammerhead shots, is much more valuable. But they're still where they were before. They're still extremely points efficient for damage. They destroy everything. They're extremely tough. Tank shocks, they're terrifying. Yeah, when your opponent sees these, they shit themselves. Armored Sentinel is bad. It needs a lot of help. Like, I don't really know what to say about it. It just needed help and it didn't get it. This Dataslate, you don't see them. I think they need to give it regiment keyword, and I think they need to make you be able to take 3-mans. On the other end of the spectrum, Scout Sentinel is I'm going to put it very top of A tier. I think you're going to see more of them now. People are probably going to have to cut a squad of Catachans for this to save 10 points. Has a good ability. Scout 9 inches, really, really good. And on certain deployments is more important than Scout 6, which people don't seem to remember a lot. You can get this thing like really far up the board turn 1 if you need to. It's got a las cannon, it's got a hunter killer missile, so it provides some damage some of the time. Yeah, it's just a very, very cheap, helpful unit. We'll do these for now. So all of these are going to go right in the bottom. They're just all waiting for 11th. The aircraft might not even survive until 11th. The Aegis defense line is a meme unit. The strike fighter is extremely point inefficient and does nothing. The Valkyrie is just like, this rule is idiotic, and the Cyclops demolition vehicle is just like, why? Do you know, I'm going to put this in D, because like you probably might see it in a Taurox with Krieg engineers, and I think that combo is funny, but yeah. Baneblades. So we'll start with the Hellhammer. This is waiting for 11th. Why would you have a 500 point tank with this with a fucking Eradicator cannon on it? As a whole on Baneblades, I do think the 30 point nerf is nice, and in combination with a 20 point Lord Solar buff, in combination with a 20 point Lord Solar buff, means you're getting an engine save for free. So you're probably going to see them, but I think they aren't going to become meta. They're not going to become like the automatic, like, taken in every guard list. I think they still have the problem of terrain, which means they're only really playable in Hammer or mechanized if you're going to take a Stormlord. Every other detachment provides no benefits for them. There's no way of like effectively re-rolling hit rolls on them, which is the main problem with a lot of them, the lower shot count ones. So yeah, Baneblade, I think this is just like a big Rogel Dawn. And you could even argue like a Rogel Dawn probably has more damage output than one. So I think the standard Baneblade, like, it's funny to hide a massive squad of infantry behind it, but damage output wise, the main gun being 3d6 makes it too swingy. So yeah, but I think this Demolisher Cannon still has d6 plus 3. So if you love Demolisher Cannons, I'm going to put it up here. The Bane Hammer. The fuck does the Bane Hammer even do? I'll skip the Bane Hammer, I actually can't remember what it does. I'll do the Shadow Sword. The Shadow Sword's still bad. Like, it just has too low shot count, where it's too likely that for your 400 point super heavy for it to do 0 damage to a vehicle, which is the problem with it. These units cost so many points, you need them every turn fighting, shooting and killing something, and the Shadow Sword is likely to not do that, just the problem with it. Bane Sword, so this is the cannon that is d6 plus 6, strength 16, I think, AP 4, damage 4, ignoring cover. It's the second most expensive. I think it's 450 now. This is one of the ones that is viable now, I think. You're going to see this one. I'm going to put it in B. Realistically, out of all the Baneblades, you can't put any in good, because they're not good. They're mid at best. I think this is going to see some play. This also is the one that does Deadly Demise on a 3+. I think if you swapped that ability over to the Storm Sword, it would be better, because the Storm Sword has a higher damage weapon. But in certain metas, like where you have 4 wound infantry, like if this was rocking around during the Death Guard meta, at its current points cost, it would probably see a lot more play. It's just meta dependent, I think, if he is 4 wound infantry running around everywhere. But, you know, it's not... Yeah, you might see him. Storm Sword, I think this is probably the best standout super heavy. I'm going to put it up here. This is the same as the Bane Sword in that it's D6+6, AP4, Strength 16, again, ignoring cover, but it's D6+2 damage, which means on average per shot you're going to do 1 damage more than you would than the Bane Sword. To compensate, it is 15 points more, if I remember. I think it's 465 now. And its rule is like meh, where it's a concussive like wave mortal wound area of effect splash thing on a 5+, so very unreliable. You could say the Bane Sword has a more reliable ability with its Deadly Demise, but harder to kill vehicles with it, so yeah. So Doomhammer. What? So the Doom is the Doomhammer. Let me just have a look. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the Doomhammer's the one that's D6+3, Strength 12, AP4, D6 damage. But it's also one of the cheapest ones. So I think as a weapon, this thing does not have a good weapon. It's 24-inch range. If you target a monster or vehicle, yeah, it's always within half damage. So it's like 9 damage per shot, 10 damage per shot on average. The problem is the low shot count is the biggest problem. You're only going to get 6 shots on average. And the strength 12 means it's also inefficient at actually just wounding vehicles compared to the others. So yeah, that is the problem. It is a transport, but I feel like if you're taking a transport, the Baneblade, you ain't considering this one. So yeah, for that reason, I think there's a better option than it, and I'd rather have the default Baneblade. I think, yeah, but it's just like it's one of the cheapest. But I feel like if you're forking out on a Baneblade, you ain't considering the price cost of one, really, are you? It's probably better than the Eradicator. Send the Banehammer. What does the Banehammer do? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, this one's the Tremor Cannon one, isn't it? Yeah, I think this is the worst one. Minus the Hellhammer, it is the worst one. So this makes everything do a battle shock test. It's cheap, but it's still more expensive than the Doomhammer. And for context, its main gun is D6+3 shots. Sorry, 2d6+3, so you get 9 shots on average. It's strength 12, but it's AP 2. And it's 3 damage. Like what? Not good. Not good at all. It just doesn't do enough damage. It just probably does more damage than the Hellhound. But nah, it ain't good, man. The Stormlord. I think out of all of them, this one is going to see play, and I'm going to put it in A tier. I'll tell you why. In Mechanized Assault, this thing is a beast. You aren't really concerned about its mega transport capacity. Like, that can be helpful, and you can absolutely overload the shit out of this thing if you want. But it's more the fact of the getting in and out ability. It's like refreshing your +1 to wound every turn. Its main gun is meh. Like, this thing just has a million bolter shots, and it's AP1. Getting covers extremely easy. In 40k as a whole. Like, if you do bring a Hellhound or you bring an Exterminator, this thing does a lot better with its main gun. But yeah, it's just that it's 430 points now. And at that price point, I think for it just being a super heavy with 4 las cannons on it, and just I think it has 35 bolter shots as a whole, which is ridiculous. like the the move out, getting in and out is so oppressive into some armies. I'm hesitant to put it in A tier because, like, is it insane in mech? Like, maybe. So I'm gonna put it at the very bottom. This one is gonna see play, I'm fairly sure. So yeah, that's the tier list. Is there anything I'm gonna change? Fairly happy with S. Fairly happy with S plus. A tier looks good. Yeah, B tier is looking good. C tier. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. So yeah, thanks for watching.